Commander Jake Hewitt stood before the Galactic Council with humanity's final warning recorded and transmitted across 47 systems. They laughed, called us primitive, told us to stay in our corner of space or face extinction. 3 weeks later, their armada burned at the Kepler Junction, and the galaxy finally understood: humans don't bluff. If this sounds like the kind of story you need to hear, smash that like button and subscribe to HFY Endurance Tales, because what happens next will change everything you thought you knew about warfare. Now, let's move forward into the trial that would reshape the galaxy forever. 6 months before the Kepler Junction burned, Commander Jake Hewitt sat in a sterile diplomatic chamber on Sanctuary Station, watching the Galactic Council deliberate humanity's fate. The chamber curved upward like an amphitheater, with representatives from 19 species arranged in ascending rings. Jake stood alone on the floor, his dress uniform crisp, his jaw tight. The Vrenaki ambassador, a towering insectoid with compound eyes that refracted light into rainbow patterns, clicked his mandibles in what Jake had learned was dismissive laughter. The human delegation demands territorial recognition for 73 colony worlds. This is unprecedented for a species barely 2 centuries into void travel. Jake didn't flinch. His voice carried across the chamber, measured and clear. We're not demanding, we're notifying. Those worlds have human populations exceeding 50 million combined. We've submitted full documentation of settlement dates, resource management, and defensive capabilities. A Thescan counselor, reptilian and ancient, hissed through her translator. Defensive capabilities. How quaint. You have 47 warships, Commander. The Vrenaki Dominion alone fields 6,000. Then you have nothing to fear from our request, Jake replied. The chamber erupted in what passed for laughter among the assembled species. Jake's hands remained clasped behind his back, his expression neutral. Inside, his mind catalogued every detail. The Vrenaki battle fleet positioning near the outer reaches. The Thescan mining operations encroaching on human settlements. The pattern of missing human freighters near council-controlled jump gates. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice crackled in his earpiece, transmitted from the UHNS Valiant in high orbit. Jake, they're not taking this seriously. I'm reading weapons charging on 3 Vrenaki cruisers. This might go bad, fast. Jake touched his collar, activating the sub-vocal mic. Patience, Admiral. Let them last now. The Vrenaki ambassador rose to his full 3-meter height. The Council's decision is final. Humanity will withdraw from all disputed territories within 90 days. Failure to comply will result in forcible removal and seizure of assets. Your species lacks the standing to negotiate with established powers. Jake reached into his jacket and produced a small data crystal, holding it up for the entire chamber to see. Then let the record show that on this date, at this hour, humanity delivered formal notification under Galactic Maritime Law, Article 17, Section 4. We have 90 days to withdraw. You have 90 days to reconsider. He placed the crystal on the podium and transmitted simultaneously to every diplomatic channel in Council space. The message was simple. Detailed coordinates of every human colony, complete defensive inventories, and a single line that would echo across the galaxy. After 90 days, any act of aggression against human territory will be considered an act of war. We will respond proportionally and without hesitation. This is not a threat. This is a promise. The Vrenaki ambassador's laughter boomed. You cannot threaten us with 47 ships. Jake met his compound eyes without blinking. Who said anything about 47? He turned and walked toward the exit, leaving the crystal behind, leaving the council in confusion, leaving them exactly 89 days and 23 hours to figure out what humanity had really been building in the dark between the stars. Day 73. Jake stood in the Tactical Operations Center of the UHNS Valiant, watching holographic displays track 17 Vrenaki battle groups converging on human space. They weren't waiting for the deadline. They never intended to. Admiral, we're receiving distress signals from New Harmony Colony, Lieutenant Marcus Webb reported, his voice tight. Vrenaki forces are landing ground troops. They're claiming the settlement as salvage under abandonment protocols. There are 4 million people on New Harmony, Admiral Chen said, her knuckles white against the railing. They know damn well it's not abandoned. Jake pulled up the tactical feed. Vrenaki dropships were descending through New Harmony's atmosphere, spreading out across the agricultural zones. His jaw clenched. This was the test. The galaxy wanted to see if humanity would actually fight, or if the warning had been empty posturing. Get me a channel to the Vrenaki flagship, Jake said. The holographic display shimmered, and the Vrenaki fleet commander appeared. His mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. Have you contacted us to discuss terms of surrender? I'm offering you one chance to withdraw, Jake said. You have 30 minutes to recall your ground forces and exit New Harmony's orbital space. The Vrenaki commander's laughter buzzed through the translator. Or what? You'll file a diplomatic protest? Your nearest battle group is 6 days away. By then, New Harmony will be a Vrenaki mining operation, and your colonists will be working our excavation pits. 29 minutes, Jake said, and terminated the connection. Admiral Chen turned to him. Jake, he's right. Third Fleet can't reach them in time. We'd need a miracle too. We don't need Third Fleet, Jake interrupted. He pulled up a different tactical overlay, one that showed something the Vrenaki long-range sensors hadn't detected. We need the ghosts. Webb's eyes widened. Sir, the ghost program is still classified. If we reveal them now. Now is exactly when we reveal them, Jake said. He opened an encrypted channel, maximum priority. Ghost Leader, this is Valiant Actual. You are weapons free. Authorization code, Thermopylae. In the darkness between New Harmony and its moon, 17 objects that the Vrenaki had assumed were debris suddenly blazed to life. They were sleek, angular, and equipped with propulsion systems that bent the laws of physics as the galaxy understood them. Humanity's stealth frigates, built in secret over the past decade, equipped with experimental jump drives that could micro-jump in-system. Ghost Leader's voice came back calm and professional. Valiant Actual, Ghost Wing confirms weapons free, beginning attack run. The Vrenaki fleet never saw them coming. Jake watched the tactical display as 17 ghost frigates materialized inside the Vrenaki formation, moving too fast for traditional targeting systems. Railgun rounds punched through shields that weren't designed for close-range engagement. Vrenaki cruisers, built for long-range bombardment and fleet actions, found themselves in a knife fight they couldn't win. Vrenaki flagship is hailing us, Webb reported. They're demanding we cease fire. Ignore it, Jake said. They had their 30 minutes. One by one, Vrenaki dropships began emergency ascents from New Harmony's surface, scrambling to escape before the ghost frigates could target them in atmosphere. The Vrenaki flagship, its primary weapons disabled by precision strikes, began a slow retreat vector. Admiral Chen stood beside Jake, watching the impossible unfold. How many more of these ghost ships do we have? Enough, Jake said, and that's all they need to know. The Vrenaki fleet commander's face reappeared on the display, his mandibles now tight with rage. This is a violation of every engagement protocol. You fired without declaring war. Check your timeline, Jake said coldly. You landed troops on a human colony. That's the declaration. We just responded proportionally, exactly as promised. The Council will hear of this treachery. I'm counting on it, Jake said. Make sure you tell them everything. How you attacked first, how you lost, how humans don't bluff. The connection severed. The Vrenaki fleet continued its retreat, leaving New Harmony space in disarray. But Jake's tactical officer was already pulling up new data, his face pale. Commander, we're detecting jump signatures, multiple vectors. These aren't Vrenaki. The holographic display expanded, showing massive energy signatures emerging from jump space. Not dozens of ships. Hundreds. The Thescan Empire had been watching, waiting to see if humanity would actually fight. Now they were bringing everything they had. And they were heading straight for Earth. Jake stared at the display showing 347 Thescan warships dropping out of jump space at the edge of the Sol system. The largest invasion force humanity had ever faced, and they had 72 hours before it reached Earth. "Get me Admiral Rodriguez at Luna Command," Jake ordered. "And someone find out where the hell the rest of the Council stands on this." The answer came faster than expected. A Priority 1 transmission from Sanctuary Station, routed through every diplomatic channel in known space. The image that appeared wasn't a counselor. It was Ambassador Valera Kess, a Sarathi analyst Jake had worked with during the initial diplomatic negotiations. Her bioluminescent markings pulsed rapid orange, a color he'd learned meant extreme agitation. "Commander Hewitt," she said, her voice lacking any translator distortion, since Sarathi could speak human languages directly. "I am transmitting from an unsecured location. The Council has voted. They are sanctioning the Thescan action as a peacekeeping intervention. You must understand, this was decided before New Harmony. They intended to make an example of humanity." "Why are you telling me this?" Jake asked. Her markings shifted to deep blue. Sadness, if he remembered correctly. "Because I accessed the restricted files. The Vernaki didn't lose freighters to pirates near your space. They deliberately destroyed them and blamed humans to justify aggression. The Thescan mining operations that encroached on your colonies were not accidents. This was coordinated. Planned." She paused. "And I found something else. Records from the Kepler Junction. Your missing colonists. 3,000 people. They didn't disappear. They were taken to Thescan labor camps." Jake's blood went cold. "You have proof?" "I am transmitting it now. Commander, if you share these files publicly, I will likely be executed for treason against the Council. But you deserve to know what you are fighting." Her markings pulsed white. Determination. "Humanity did warn them. You followed every protocol. They chose this." The transmission ended. Jake stood frozen as the data packets downloaded. 3,000 colonists, men, women, children, worked to death in zero-G mining operations. The documentation was meticulous, bureaucratic, horrifying in its casual brutality. Admiral Chen's voice cut through his rage. "Jake, Rodriguez is on the line, and you need to hear what he has to say." Rodriguez appeared, his weathered face grim. "Hewitt, I'm at Tycho Crater. I need you to see something." The feed switched to an exterior view of Luna's far side. The ancient impact crater stretched for kilometers, but something was different. The shadows were wrong. Structures rose from the regolith, massive and angular. "We've been building more than ghost frigates." Jake's eyes widened as the structures came into focus. Shipyards, dozens of them, and emerging from those yards were vessels that made the ghost frigates look like scouts. Battle carriers, heavy cruisers, dreadnoughts with weapon arrays that glowed with barely contained energy. "How long?" Jake whispered. 15 years, Rodriguez said. "Every mining operation on Luna, every deep space supply run, every diplomatic delay. We were buying time, Commander, letting them think we were desperate and weak while we built a fleet that could actually fight." He leaned closer. "We have 237 capital ships ready for deployment. The Thescans are bringing 347, but they don't know what we're really capable of." "Activate the fleet," Jake ordered. "Full mobilization, and transmit Valera's files on every open channel. I want the galaxy to see exactly what the Council has been hiding." "Sir," Webb interrupted, "we're detecting another jump signature. Single ship. It's broadcasting Sarathi diplomatic codes, but the energy signature is all wrong. The vessel that emerged from jump space was small, fast, and trailing what looked like pursuit debris. It was making a desperate burn toward the Valiant. "They're hailing us," Webb said. "It's Ambassador Valera. She says the Council knows she leaked the files. They've ordered her execution." He paused, his face pale. "And she's not alone. There are 17 other species representatives with her. They're requesting asylum." Jake's mind raced. This changed everything. "Get them aboard. And prepare for—" Alarms shrieked across the bridge. The Thescan fleet had stopped its advance. Instead, they were forming a battle line at maximum weapons range. And behind them, jumping in by the hundreds, came the rest of the Galactic Council's armada. Not 300 ships. Over 2,000. 2,000 warships versus 237. The math was simple. The outcome should have been inevitable. Jake stood on the bridge of the Valiant as Admiral Chen coordinated the defense of Earth. Around them, the newly revealed human fleet assembled in formations the galaxy had never seen before. Not the predictable battle lines and screening elements taught in every military academy. These were distributed clusters, overlapping fields of fire, ships positioned to support each other in ways that made no tactical sense to traditional doctrine. "They're hailing us," Webb reported. "Council Marshal Faven, he's demanding our immediate surrender." "Put him through," Jake said. The Thescan Marshal appeared, his scales gleaming like polished bronze, his eyes cold and ancient. "Commander Hewitt, you have revealed your hidden fleet. Impressive. But mathematics do not lie. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to exist as a client state under Council protection." "Protection," Jake repeated, his voice hard. "Is that what you call those labor camps? The 3,000 colonists you worked to death at Kepler Junction?" Faven's expression didn't change. "Necessary measures to maintain galactic order. Your species expanded too rapidly, consumed too many resources. Examples had to be made." "And that's why you're here with 2,000 ships," Jake said, "to make an example of Earth." "To make an example of defiance," Faven corrected. "Other species are watching, Commander. If humanity is allowed to threaten the Council without consequence, the entire galactic order collapses. You should have accepted your place." Behind Jake, Ambassador Valera stood with the 17 other defectors. Her bioluminescent markings pulsed angry red as she listened. She'd risked everything to expose the truth, and now she would witness whether it mattered. "Marshal Faven," Jake said carefully, "I'm going to offer you the same chance I gave the Vrenaki. Withdraw your forces. Acknowledge that humanity has the right to defend its territory. Accept independent arbitration for the Kepler Junction atrocities. You have 1 hour." Faven's laughter was a harsh rattle. "Or you will do what? Throw your 200 ships against our 2,000? We have studied your ghost vessels, Commander. Impressive stealth technology, effective in ambush. But this is open battle. You have no advantage here." 59 minutes, Jake said, and cut the transmission. Admiral Chen moved beside him. "Jake, even with our new ships, the numbers don't work. If they commit everything, we can't hold the line." "We don't need to hold the line," Jake said quietly. He pulled up a tactical overlay that only the senior command staff could see. "We need to make them commit everything." The hour ticked down. Jake spent it coordinating with Rodriguez at Luna Command, with fleet captains across the human formation, with the ground defense networks on Earth and Mars and the Belt colonies. Every piece moving into position, every element of the plan checked and rechecked. When Marshal Faven's smug face reappeared exactly 60 minutes later, Jake was ready. "Your time is expired, Commander. We are advancing. For the record, this did not need to happen." "No," Jake agreed. "It didn't, but you chose it anyway." The Council Armada began its advance, a wall of ships moving in perfect formation toward Earth. Weapons charged, shields at maximum, 2,000 vessels bearing down on humanity's home. Jake watched them come, waited until they crossed the invisible line he'd drawn in his mind. Then he opened a channel to Rodriguez. "Execute Broken Arrow." All across the solar system, hidden weapons platforms activated. Not on ships, not in orbit, but scattered throughout the asteroid belt, the Kuiper belt, dormant satellites positioned over years of quiet preparation. Humanity hadn't just built a fleet, they'd turned their entire home system into a fortress. And the Council Armada had just sailed straight into the kill zone. But before Jank could give the order to fire, every display on the bridge went dark. Emergency lighting kicked in. Webb's voice was tight with panic. "Sir, something's jamming everything. Communications, targeting, navigation. It's not coming from the Council fleet." Admiral Chen stared at the blank screens. "Then where the hell is it coming from?" A new voice, cold and mechanical, boomed through every speaker on every ship in the system. "All vessels will stand down. This sector is now under Directive 7 containment protocols." Jake's blood ran cold. Directive 7 was a myth, a story the older species whispered about. The failsafe built into galactic civilization itself, designed to stop wars that threatened total annihilation. And it was only activated by one entity: the Architects, the species that had built the Jump Gate network 10,000 years ago, the ones everyone assumed were extinct. They weren't extinct. They were here. The Architect vessel materialized between the human fleet and the Council Armada. Not from jump space. It simply appeared, as if reality had decided to skip a few frames. The ship was enormous, dwarfing even the largest Thescan dreadnoughts, its surface covered in geometric patterns that hurt to look at for too long. Jake's displays flickered back to life, but now every screen showed the same thing: a being that looked vaguely humanoid, but wrong in ways that made his mind struggle to process the details. "I am Keeper of Thresholds," the voice said, no longer mechanical, but layered with harmonics that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "This conflict has triggered protocols established to prevent extinction-level warfare. Both forces will disengage immediately." Marshal Thaven's voice cut across the channel, furious. "The Architects have no authority here. The Council governs." "The Council exists because we permit it," Keeper of Thresholds interrupted. "You wage war with weapons you barely understand, in a network we built. Humanity has revealed weapons that violate the technological equilibrium we established. The Thescan Empire has committed genocide. Both actions threaten systemic collapse." Jake's mind raced. The Architects weren't here to help. They were here to reset the board. That meant humanity's entire defense network, everything they'd built, would be dismantled. Earth would be left defenseless, while the Council faced nothing worse than a diplomatic slap. "Keeper," Jake said, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at his chest. "Humanity acted in self-defense. We submitted proper warnings through legal channels. The Council ignored them and attacked our civilians. We have documentation." "We are aware," Keeper of Threshold said. "Ambassador Valera Kess's transmission reached our monitoring stations. We have reviewed the evidence of Thescan labor camps, Vranaki sabotage, and Council conspiracy. These violations are severe." "Then you acknowledge that humanity must be contained before they become what you already are?" Keeper of Thresholds said. The question hung in the void like a knife. "You fear humanity not because they are savage, but because they are effective. Because in 2 centuries they have matched what took you 2 millennia. Because they actually keep their warnings." The Architect ship's geometry shifted, patterns flowing like liquid across its hull. Jake realized it was accessing every database, every record, every piece of evidence from both sides simultaneously. "The Architects will render judgment," Keeper of Thresholds declared. "Humanity, you will disable your system-wide weapons network and submit your stealth technology for review. The Galactic Council, you will withdraw all forces beyond the demarcation line and submit to tribunal for war crimes at Kepler Junction." "No," Jake said. Every being in the system seemed to freeze at that single word. "Commander Hewitt, Keeper of Thresholds said, and for the first time, there was something like surprise in that layered voice. You refuse architect mediation? I refuse mediation that treats defense and genocide as equivalent crimes, Jake said. His hands were shaking, but his voice held firm. You want us to disarm, while the people who murdered 3,000 of our civilians get a tribunal they'll manipulate politically. That's not justice. That's surrender with extra steps. Admiral Chen grabbed his arm. Jake, you can't challenge the architects. They can erase our entire fleet with a thought. But I won't watch humanity get dismantled because we had the audacity to survive. He looked directly at the Keeper's image. You said you've been monitoring us. Then you know we've never started a war, never violated our own warnings, never committed genocide. So here's my counteroffer. The Council submits to justice first. Real justice. Public trials, full disclosure, reparations to the families they destroyed. They do that, prove the system actually works, then we'll talk about our weapons. And if the Council refuses? Keeper of Thresholds asked. Then you'll see exactly how far humans will go when we have nothing left to lose. The silence stretched for 10 seconds, 20, 30. Then Keeper of Thresholds did something unprecedented. It laughed. Curious, the architect said. In 10,000 years of mediating conflicts, no species has ever negotiated with us. The ship's patterns accelerated. Very well, Commander Hewitt. We will test the integrity of the system you claim to trust. The Council will submit to immediate tribunal. Humanity will maintain defensive posture, but will not advance. We will observe. Marshal Thaven's image reappeared, his scales now pale with rage. This is unconscionable. The architects cannot side with. We side with precedent, Keeper of Thresholds said. You created the laws. Humanity followed them. You violated them. The mathematics are simple. The Council will never accept this humiliation, Thaven hissed. Then the Council will learn what it means to face consequences. The architect vessel began to fade, but Keeper of Threshold's final words echoed across every channel. Humanity has 7 days to present evidence at Sanctuary Station. The Council has 7 days to prepare its defense. All parties will attend. This is not negotiable. As the architects vanished, Jake watched the Council armada. 2,000 ships, weapons still charged, facing the choice between law and annihilation. Marshal Thaven's face appeared one final time, his voice cold with promise. 7 days, Commander. Enjoy them. Because when the tribunal ends, when the architects leave, there will be nothing standing between your fleet and ours. And next time, we will not hesitate. The transmission ended. The Council armada began its withdrawal, but Jake could see them repositioning, regrouping, preparing. This wasn't over. If anything, the real war was about to begin. 7 days later, Jake stood in the same chamber where humanity had delivered its warning 6 months ago. But this time, the Galactic Council sat in the defendant's position, while representatives from 43 species watched the tribunal proceedings broadcast across known space. Ambassador Valera presented the evidence with clinical precision. Financial records showing Council subsidies for the Kepler Junction labor camps. Communications logs proving the Vranaki sabotage was sanctioned at the highest levels. Testimony from the 17 defectors who'd risked everything for the truth. Marshal Thaven sat rigid as the charges mounted. When given the chance to speak, his defense was simple. We acted to preserve order. Humanity threatened the balance of power. By existing? Jake asked from the witness stand. By defending our families? The tribunal lasted 3 days. The verdict took 3 minutes. Guilty on all charges. The Thescan Empire was stripped of council voting rights for 50 years. Reparations totaling 6 trillion credits were ordered paid to human survivors and families of the deceased. Marshal Thaven himself was sentenced to life imprisonment in an architect-monitored facility. But Jake knew the real victory wasn't in the courtroom. It was in the messages flooding in from species across the galaxy. Minor powers who'd suffered council exploitation for centuries, who finally saw that challenging authority was possible, that following the law and standing firm could actually work. 3 weeks after the tribunal, Jake returned to the Valiant's bridge for what should have been a routine patrol. Instead, he found Ambassador Valera waiting for him. Her bioluminescent markings pulsed steady green. Peace. I have been appointed as the new Galactic Council's first independent mediator. My first official act is to propose formal recognition of human territorial claims and an invitation to join the Council as equal members. Jake studied her carefully. And if we refuse? Then you refuse, she said simply. The choice is yours, but I think the galaxy is better when voices like yours are heard in its halls. He thought about the 3,000 dead at Kepler Junction, about the war that had nearly consumed Earth, about the future his people deserved. We'll consider it, Jake said, but we're keeping our fleet. Every ship, every weapon, every defense platform. Valera's markings pulsed blue, amusement he'd learned. I would expect nothing less. As she left, Admiral Chen appeared beside him. You really think they've learned their lesson? Jake looked out at the stars, at the patrol routes now secured, at the colonies that could grow without fear. Some of them have. The ones who haven't, he smiled grimly. They know what happens when they ignore a human warning. Far across the bridge, Lieutenant Webb was pulling up reports from the frontier. New colonies establishing trade routes, former council species requesting human protection, a galaxy slowly, painfully learning to change. Sir, Webb called out. Incoming message from Luna Command. Rodriguez says the shipyards are ready for the next production run. He's asking what class of vessel we want to prioritize. Jake thought about Keeper of Thresholds, watching from whatever dimension the architects occupied. About council species still bitter over their defeat. About the future that would demand humanity remain strong enough to keep the peace they'd fought for. Tell him to build everything, Jake said. Carriers, cruisers, frigates, defense platforms. We proved we could fight. Now we prove we can protect what we've built. Admiral Chen raised an eyebrow. You really think there'll be another war? I think there won't be, Jake said, as long as everyone remembers this one. He pulled up the original warning transmission, the one the Council had laughed at 6 months ago. The message was still broadcasting, automatically repeating on every diplomatic channel. After 90 days, any act of aggression against human territory will be considered an act of war. We will respond proportionally and without hesitation. This is not a threat. This is a promise. The galaxy had learned the hard way. Humans keep their promises. And if you enjoyed this journey through humanity's finest hour, make sure you share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment telling us what moment hit hardest. And subscribe to HFY Endurance Tales for more stories that prove why humanity never backs down. Because out there in the stars, our greatest strength isn't our weapons or our ships. It's that when we give our word, we mean it. Every single time.